me see. Okay. Hello, everybody. Here we are to talk about the Universal Code of Conduct. I have two guests this evening, Mervat Salman, and from the team for the liaison for the team of this who had to wrote this Universal Code of Conduct, and Patrick Early. And hello. So, as you know, in 2017, the Wikimedia movement starts a process of strategy. And during the time in phase one, phase two, and the movement wrote 10 recommendations, which of one was provide safety and inclusion. And the university code of conduct is part of this recommendation. Mervat, how can you say more about this process and about the Universal Code of Conduct?
So thank you for the question and the introduction, Camelia. And we are really happy to join you to give some introduction about the process we have been doing for the past 2 years. So Code of Conduct is one of the outputs or outcomes that resulted from the strategy, the movement strategy processes and recommendations. Many communities and affiliates, individuals showed interest in safety and inclusion, and this was one of the most, the first recommendations that were put into implementation. So during the 2 years, we managed to come up with a proposed policy for the code of conduct that can apply to any community, any individual, any staff members who work within communities or affiliates or projects that relate to the movement. The second phase, we came up with the guidelines. By we, I mean the team, UCoC team, drafting committee, two drafting committees worked in the processes. So the guidelines are intended to guide the communities and parties, stakeholders on how the code of conduct can be implemented and enforced. So it includes a lot of ideas and thoughts, recommendations that were open for review and feedback for almost 2 months. So currently, this phase is being concluded by reviewing the feedback that we collected from the community. I think maybe Patrick would like to speak about the third process, which will start soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvat, and hello, everyone. Thank you, Camelia, for having me on the call. Just a quick introduction for myself. I'm Patrick Early, and I work with the Trust and Safety Policy team at the Wikimedia Foundation. And we've been working with Mervat and her colleagues to help run a process for coming up with a UCoC, coming up with a policy, but also to think about how it should be implemented. And so, as Mervat said, we've gone through quite a bit of work already. Last 2 years, a lot of discussions, a lot of drafting, a lot of revising, a lot of meetings, a lot of calls. It's been very good. There's been very many people in the movement giving their opinions, and that's very, very important. But from here, we have to sort of move to the next stage of talking about what makes this a formal policy, what makes this enforcement guidelines real for the movement. And so we need to talk about what the movement needs to see in a process to endorse or approve the enforcement guidelines for the UCoC. And so I think that's the next stage after we get some good guidelines. Obviously, we shouldn't be talking about finishing anything until the guidelines are strong and they have processes that the movement can work with. But after that, you can use different words: ratification, endorsement. We do need to have some sort of process where Wikimedians can say, all right, let's go forward with this. I think it's very important that we don't have some people in the movement who support the UCoC and want it in place, and some people who say, no, it's not real. We're not going to enforce it. And so we have to try and have a process where Wikimedians come together and hopefully agree on the changes that might be coming. I'd like to say that the changes hopefully aren't big and scary for anyone. I really hope that people aren't worried that they'll wake up and their account will be blocked for something they didn't know was bad. I don't think that's going to be the situation. But I hopefully positively, people will now see some new ways to resolve and report problems. They might see maybe some new tools for that to report a problem. They might see a better body that looks at the whole movement and problems in the whole movement. That some of our smaller wikis have better ways to resolve issues around conduct. These are some of the ideas that the drafting committee is putting together. And yeah, I think Mirvada would agree. We're quite impressed by the hard work that the drafting committee has done, coming up with some new ideas for how UCoC should be applied in the movement. So yeah, I think over the next few months we'll be having discussions on the best way to do this ratification or endorsement process. Some of you might have seen a survey that went out. That's one way to give ideas. There's also, we'll be talking directly to different affiliate groups over the next few months about what works best for them and how they can get involved in the process. But yeah, Camelia?
In fact, this is one of the reasons I did this. I wanted this webinar in order to involve affiliates to do the surveys, because I don't know, Nafa, can you correct me if I'm wrong? I think we need to fill a survey between 8th of December.
Actually, when we shared this survey, we thought that it can be left open for like 2 weeks, but in the cases that 2 weeks were not sufficient for any reason, we can keep it open for a few days. For example, I mean, because every voice, every input from any affiliate makes a difference, and we really want to hear from you and see what opinions you have and what thoughts you can share with us. So I think you can take your time, hopefully, before, let's say today is the 3rd of December, maybe until the 10th. Hopefully you can return back the survey with some good thoughts that represent your affiliate. Thank you, Camelia.
So 10 and on 8, so I was wrong. As I know, this survey should be filled only by one representative of the user group, which is right.
Yeah, we hope so. Actually, we don't mind if more than one person fills it out, but one of the good practices is that when it comes to affiliates, not individuals, it's good that, for example, you take some time to discuss together and provide some collective ideas, because when you do brainstorming around these thoughts, I bet that you can think of things that are uncovered, because when you discuss, new things come up, so you can describe your concerns, describe your thoughts around the ratification and such. So you can do it the way you prefer. You can fill it out yourself or by one of the directors of the group, or you can do like a collective feedback in one response. That anything is accepted.
For sure, for affiliates, it is the best way to do things. So having a discussion and I don't know, finding a common path, and yes, at the end, someone can fill the survey, but the discussion need to be done and to have a common view. Because as you said, many points of view means a better response to the
Yeah,
questions, too, for
true.
sure. What is
Yeah,
better for the
sure. The good thing, Camilla, is that the survey is short. It includes like five small questions, so I don't think it will need a lot of time. So, in order, we did it that way in order to make it easy for people to respond. You know.
We know that this is a problem we have in the movement, the lack of responses, the fact that not all people are engaged, and we know that sometimes you are waiting for responses and you don't have any responses. So maybe I'm trying to find some idea to understand which is a better way to engage the people, because on the other side I can understand it is hard to follow all the discussions, all the pages, to read everything. It's a work to do this. So it's not an easy way to, even for who is interested in the
Yeah.
movement life. It is,
I mean, I need to thank everyone so far. Over the last 2 years, we've gotten so much participation from people. It's been so wonderful, and so I do want to thank everyone who's given time. I know it's stressful, especially with the world we're living in. But people have given such good contributions and ideas already. So I just want to thank people for that.
yes, for sure. And Patrick, you said that let's talk about how this universal code of conduct really changed our activity into the project.
Yeah. So I want to say, to start with, it shouldn't be that unfamiliar to most Wikimedians. The code of conduct. I think the people who wrote the policy spent a lot of time looking at existing policies in our movement and tried to reflect those values. So I think the big part of the policy is talking about positive behavior, talking about how to collaborate well. And so it's not so much about don't do this, it's more try and do this better. And I think maybe one of the more interesting things that some of our local policies sometimes don't have is that they talk about some of the issues that come up around gender issues and around identification. And the code has a very good section about respecting how people call themselves, respecting people's differences. And that's something that our movement, you see it in quite a few projects, people are struggling with. Um, some of the current policies don't cover it very well. You also see Wikimedians trying to do the right thing, trying to respect differences, but maybe the policies aren't helping them. And so I think just that part alone has started some good conversations. Um, the policy, of course, does talk about some things you shouldn't do, but I don't think those should be surprises to anyone. This isn't new information. You shouldn't spread someone's private information around. You should never um, uh, continually harass a person. You shouldn't follow them around and delete their articles just because you don't like them. Um, you shouldn't uh, target people because of their identity. And these aren't new concepts, but I think the UCoC does strengthen them. Um, and so I think there shouldn't be any big surprises for most people in the UCoC, but there are some, in English you'd say, emphasis that maybe the projects haven't looked at. Not all projects have looked at um, in a deeper way, and so I think those are some of the improvements. But again, I don't think you should worry about again waking up one morning and seeing a giant block notice because there's some new rule that you had no idea about. I think most of us respect each other and want to treat each other well, and the code is trying to reinforce that.
Yeah, yes, because I know that sometimes these are policies that every Wikimedian knows some way because are on the Wikimedia movement philosophy, but having a precise universal code of conduct where these things are more again emphasized, as you said.
Emphasized, yes, yeah.
Sorry, emphasizes, excuse me, means they are exceptionally important. So we need to highlight them. So because sometimes some Wikipedians can say, but why do we need this? Because we already have our policies. We already have something about harassment, something. But it's important. Something I want to, as I know, but if you can give more input, is this will be so general. So this universal code of conduct will be address any Wikimedia project in any languages. Okay, so this will give some space to local policies, some depending on the context. I don't know.
So that's a good point, Camellia, is that, many of our projects are smaller projects or newer projects. There's only so many people. There's only 5 people. There's only 10 people. There isn't the time or the persons to write a lot of policy. And so you'll see in some of our smaller projects, they are missing some policies. And the UCoC can help there in the sense that you can take UCoC like a template and start writing your own policy the way you want it to sound, the way that your editors can relate to in your culture. But it's trying to say these are the minimum things we need to do as Wikimedians around the world. And so my hope is that smaller projects can say, all right, now I have an easier job writing my local policy. I have a guide I can use. And we talk about a baseline or a foundation line or a bottom line. Projects can build upwards if they want to, but we hope that the projects wouldn't go under this. We hope that projects wouldn't say, we respect all of these values except for this one, and we're going to throw this one out because we don't like it. We're hoping that the ideas in the UCoC can be the basis, and that you build from there.
And also another thing I know, we all know that this will apply not only to the project, is correct, will apply to events on and off wiki, so Wikimedia, it's a Wikimedia even outside the project, even in the real life, if we want to say, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it won't apply to you when you're at the cinema or something. But if you're
No, no,
yeah, but if you're at a Wikimedia event, yeah,
exactly.
and so it tries to cover all interactions we're having Wikimedia related on the platforms and through our affiliate groups. There are of course some difficult areas. Many communities have forums on social media, for instance. Many projects
Exactly.
have,
I'm referring almost of this on social
yeah,
media.
Facebook groups, Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups. And I think this is probably a difficult area that we have to look at, is that well, I think bad behavior on those platforms should always be part of the discussion on Wiki. Admins can't block someone on WhatsApp unless they're the own admin of that WhatsApp. And so actions taken in some of the off wiki spaces are a bit more complicated. So we need to eventually start evolving rules around that. But the drafting committee is trying to come up with good solutions to that. But every year there's a new technology, and so the UCoC will have to evolve over time. Last 2 years, so much interaction on these calls, on Zoom, on StreamYard, on other video calls. And that's something 2 years ago was just a small thing, but now it's just a everyday thing for many people. So there'll be other changes in the future we'll have to think about too.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I don't see any count on our social media channel. I only saw something, some promotional,
Some spam.
yeah, some spam. So I don't know. How can we help you? How can we? I don't know. Make your life easier and
I mean, I don't think our life's supposed to be easy. This is a difficult job, but I think one thing that's very valuable for me is that Wikimedians talk about the UCoC with each other, have discussions about it, and not approach it from a place of fear or suspicion. I mean, I do want to say that I know personally everyone who's been involved in this project so far, both Wikimedians online who are helping, staff who are working on it, and they all have best interests in heart. And so I think it's important we have discussions with each other about what we're worried about, and actually look at the policy itself, see what's in there and what's not in there. But as we get closer to maybe a ratification process, I think it's important for Wikimedians to say, where do I stand? Do I think this needs to change? Does it need to be improved? Or is this something that we can go forward with and at least try and revise later if we have to? Because that's a big decision that we have to make as Wikimedians fairly soon, is, we need to move into application and a new reality where this is real. And again, it shouldn't be a huge change, but it should be a change of a certain type. So yeah, I mean, Mervet might have other ideas, obviously. Fill out the survey. Go ahead, Mervet.
Actually, thank you. I wanted to comment on your previous point, which is that we started to see people, I don't want to say applying, but referring to the UCoC to visit their local policies, update them in the way they see suitable in order to comply with the UCoC. Even with the off-wiki events, there are a lot of examples when people or Wikimedians in their events started to apply a source or a base of conduct that they enforce on the participants in the event. So this is like an awareness that increased when we started to discuss with the communities and individuals, Wikimedians, about the need to have a code in place that can be referred to protect the participants, actually, to govern the behavior, to put like some not restrictions, but restrictions that prevent people from behaving badly towards each other. And this is one of the good objectives that we are seeing since we started discussing about the policy itself. So this is encouraging. It indicates that people or communities, especially the smaller ones, really wanted that. So it's in place. Anyone can refer to it. Anyone can apply it in the way that suits the nature of their community, and that preserves the constraints or the characteristics of that community, cultural, language, things like that. So this is really encouraging, and we really look forward for the ratification process to go on smoothly, because we hope maybe next year to see the UCoC is in place, enforced, implemented by all. Thank you.
And sorry, just one thing I'll add to Mervet's point is that, I think that's one thing we will ask for help with, is that ratification endorsement on a movement-wide scale is a very difficult process. There isn't one way to do it. We have board elections where people take part from across the wikis. We've had the movement strategy process where people took part across wikis. We have discussions on MetaWiki, where people make decisions that affect the whole movement. But there isn't one single way to sort of move forward with something as a movement. So I would hope that people would have some patience as we try and find the best way to do that, and understand that probably the way we need to do it, it won't be absolutely perfect, because I don't think the perfect one exists. I don't think we have the infrastructure for it, but that we'll do our best to have something that is inclusive and easy to use, and respects our language difficulty. Sorry, our language differences, the difficulties around our language differences.
So the UCoC, we will replace the friendly space policy we have this now.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to replace it. I mean, the friendly spaces policy is great, and it is more the friendly spaces policy is written for events, and so I think friendly spaces is a good example of a policy that you could look at it and say, does it comply with the UCoC? And if the answer is yes, move forward with it. I mean, I don't think that we should be getting rid of the friendly spaces policy that has served us well over the years, but it can be improved as well. So again, like, you don't need to replace every policy with the UCoC. You just sort of need to say, are they in harmony, or at least in agreement with each other?
And another thing that may be a point of interesting for a lot of Wikimedia Wikipedians, for sure will be a specific request for grants. Maybe subscribing the UCoC will be an important part when someone will ask for a grant, for sure.
Yeah. Again, we want to move slowly with that. We don't want to have people agree to a policy they're not familiar with. So, step by step. And I think our grants team will start talking about that with users as well. But, while we want to get this project alive, we don't want to force it and move too fast with people. So we want to give people time to digest and talk.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have some more information to give to our audience? Do you need to add something else? Something you think
Well,
is important?
Mervat might have other ideas. I just have one idea, is that I could slowly go over some of the things that are in this enforcement guideline that everyone's been talking about.
Yes.
So it is available on MetaWiki to review. I'm just going to give people a quick summary. There's a short version or an abstract version. I'm going to try and screen share. I don't know. I think I probably will show up fairly small, but hopefully we can share out the link to it later. But I'll just put it on my screen here. Second.
Yes. Add to stream. Yes, here we are.
Do you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly go over some of the ideas that the drafting committee has come up with. So it's trying to clarify, who will be responsible for enforcing the UCoC. And so it lists some groups here. That's the foundation, as usual. The trust and safety team has to deal with some severe problems sometimes, but it also talks about empowered community members, so administrators, arbitrators, people out in the movement, our stewards who already are enforcing policy, how they will be in a position to now enforce the UCoC or their local policy if it's compliant. And so it talks about the who. It also talks about maybe having a new committee that looks at the movement as a whole to manage special cases, provide guidance and training, and just more or less see how the UCoC is going, what changes are needed, and what problems we're seeing. And yeah, I mean, our local functionaries are our admins and our comms, they already have their local policies, but they'll know about the UCoC at least. And so they'll be responsible as well, as they are now, for enforcing conduct. The question of how it might be done. So I think one major step is making sure that people are aware that there is a UCoC. So it needs to be linked in more places. It needs to be shown to new users. I think some people might have to formally agree to it, as Camelia mentioned. Perhaps if you have a grant or if you're a staff member, you'd have to formally agree to it. That point is being debated, exactly how you formally agree to it. It also asks for training that the foundation and other groups, hopefully other affiliate groups, can work together to provide training for community members so they can address harassment better. And yeah, I think the other big problem around conduct issues in the movement is quite often people don't know where to report them to and who to report them to. And this
exactly, it's important to know this in case of violation. What
exactly.
someone can do.
And so some of our older, bigger projects, they have, in English, you'd say a bureaucracy. They have a system set up for reporting issues. Some of our smaller wikis simply don't have the people or the time. And so it's trying to think of creative ways to improve that reporting situation. So one issue is technical. There's no single way to report issues. There's no button. There's no technical way to report an issue right now. We use various methods, emails, posting to notice boards, different ways. But it's asking that we set up a better system than that technical system. It's also saying that projects ideally need to have a level of oversight on their projects. So, if something is going wrong, say there's a problem with a conflict that is not being resolved, is there a way to bring it to a higher level? It won't be possible for every project. Some projects are just too small, but it wants to encourage that sort of second layer of oversight. Many communities have arbitration committees or something like that to look at. And it needs to look at the idea of appeals, because when any policy is enforced, sometimes mistakes are made, and sometimes all evidence wasn't considered. And so that's, if you do find yourself sanctioned, there needs to be a process where you can engage with for an appeal hearing. And so those are some of the big issues that the enforcement guidelines are trying to address.
Yes, something else I want to ask, as I read on the point 2.2 of the Universal Code of Conduct about some kind of help for who is harassed, something like, I don't know, training, psychological assistance, and so on. It's interesting to understand at this point.
No, I think training is something some of our chapters and affiliates are already starting to do it. It's not just training; it's also support and mentorship. And so, I think it will take some time to set up a good framework across the movement for that type of thing. But I think it's a great idea and probably very badly needed in some places. We have members of our community who are very good at dealing with problems. They have great communication skills and good techniques for dealing with problems, and so we need to let them share those techniques so that other people can use them. And
for sure, a place where all these guidelines in the Universal Code of Conduct, it's very well seen, because it's not one of the pages, hidden page, and then nobody can access to. So I don't know. I remember some discussion about having the banners, having or something else in order to highlight this universal code of conduct, so people knows what what is about and so on. And, I thank you so much for this discussion because clarified a lot of things to myself. So, you know, we have a lot of information. Sometimes we need time to filter everything and to have a more clear knowing of what is going on. So no punishing, no punishing about them. You assure the community that will be not punishing for who it's doing the right thing. So what is our
I
philosophy?
definitely, I definitely hope that will be the situation. I don't have any great fears that it will turn into a bad thing for the movement. You know, I'm not. I wouldn't work on it if I thought it was going to end very badly. So, yeah.
So thank you, Mervat. Thank you, Patrick. And I hope we can have you during all these processes again.
Anytime, we'd love to come back. Or I shouldn't speak for Mervat. Mervat, would you like to come back?
It would.
Mervat, say yes, please. Say yes, please. Mervat,
Yes,
please.
yes, see, of course, Camilla, we are always keen to come and speak and discuss things with you and with any community, with any group, because you are our partners and we depend on your thoughts and your feedback. Otherwise, I mean, it is not a rigid policy that we push towards everyone. No, it's a collective of collaboration work from everyone. So I would also like to thank you for inviting us to this discussion. Although I know it is a bit late, but better late than never. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
need to continue
Yes,
doing this.
I know that it's late. I should be done this a lot of time ago.
It's okay.
Uh,
But
Yeah, it's okay.
I also want to thank you very much, Camilla. It's been wonderful to be here. And yeah, I just want to say, if you still have worries, myself, Patrick, and Mervat, we enjoy talking about these things, and we're available to talk. So if other affiliate groups or chapters, need to have more discussion, Mervat has been doing so much work over the last few
yes,
years, but
Thank you.
we are always here for more discussion.
I know, and I thank you because sometimes all the discussion into a bigger group with a lot of points on the agenda are, are not so well extended. So I, for me, was important to point this thing that will change a little bit of situation in the movement. So it's also a central point of our strategy. So thank you so much and see you the next time.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Bye bye.
Bye.